Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Finance Junkies. We are here today on Monday, February 12th, 9:04 p.m. VITALY is sick. He's not making it today, so he'll be back maybe a little bit later this week, but I think he's struggling with a cold or something that he got out in Nashville. So he's a little sick. A lot of stuff to talk about. Been a fun market. First of all, how was your guys' weekend? Carlos, how about you?
I was just telling you guys, I was in urgent care almost all weekend long with the little kid. He's got like a stomach thing. He's not feeling well. He's been puking a lot, but we took him to the doctors. Now we got to go probably do an ultrasound on him tomorrow. So yeah, it sucks because you're up all day, you're up all night. There's no time to sleep. But other than that, it was cool. I got to go out with my daughter, took her out to the park, had some parties, that was pretty much it. What'd you guys do?
Chris, what'd you do?
To be fair, I think me and the wife we stuck it at home. My nieces and nephews, they came to visit for a little bit. I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like I'm losing track of time. I don't know if you guys are feeling that way, but for me, it's just like I have so many things going on that sometimes I'm like, is it Saturday today or is it Sunday? And like before you know it, it's the weekend's already over. So I don't know. I got to figure something out around that. So I don't have a set routine. And I think that's what might be a cause of it. So we'll see.
I got the same deal because ever since I'm between jobs right now and I have little side projects, but I have nothing demanding me to be somewhere at a certain time. It's just whatever the kids need. And yeah, it's disorienting, if anything. Like I do need some sort of structure. So I think I'm getting to that point where I need something to create.
Did you guys watch the game at all or no?
Yeah, I was at a buddy's house yesterday for the game.
It's a good game, right?
I didn't think so. I don't think it was that great of a game. As far as Superbowls go, no, I didn't think so. What did you guys think in the chat? I mean, and what did you guys think of the halftime show? You guys
watch it, Chris, or no? You didn't care.
I didn't. I only watched the overtime part. That's it.
Although I thought the halftime show was okay. I mean, I know everyone loves Usher. I didn't love the performance. I don't know. I thought it could have been a little bit cooler, but it was good.
I didn't like it at all, man.
You didn't like it, right? Okay, I didn't want to say I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
We all had a big debate on it. I'm watching this thing and I'm like, when is it going to feel big? Like,
right.
It should feel big. Where are the big aerial shots with the synchronized dancing and the fireworks? Like, just go back, look up a Prince halftime show. Look up that dude's
yeah, or Michael Jackson's, dude. Michael Jackson's had 100 million people watching.
Epic. This felt like, I don't know, it felt like a glorified performance like a Grammys.
I don't want to say it, but I agree, dude.
It wasn't. I don't know.
I'm going to say something controversial, but whatever. I thought that Black National Anthem thing, that shit needs to stop.
Bro, that was weird.
Wait, what? They did a Black National Anthem?
They did a Black National Anthem before the American national.
What? Wait, I don't care whether they.
I did not know this.
Look it up right now. You'll hear.
I don't care if they do it before or after. I think they need to stop doing it because of one reason and one reason only. Black America is America. Mm-hmm. Indian Americans, we're America. Like these divisions that are constantly being put up now, and the thing is, you're codifying them into a reality. So now it's like, oh yeah, no, it's separate but equal. Remember that? Separate but equal? Where's that come from? That comes from segregation.
Yeah, that's so compromise right there.
Dude, I did not know they did a Black National Anthem.
It's corny.
Yeah.
This is crazy, what is that? Dude. What the fuck is going on?
I mean,
okay,
it is what it is, man. But I just, whenever I see stuff like that, the ramifications I think are a generation away, where people, instead of identifying themselves as American, they're going to start identifying themselves with their racial group. And what ends up happening is, dude, when we leave America and we go to these foreign countries, they hate us equally. There's no like, oh, I hate Indian Americans more than I hate Black Americans. No, they hate all of us. They hate Americans. They really hate a lot of the shit that we do and we stand for. So why are we dividing ourselves up like this? So and this goes down to even a question that I was asked by one of my cousins. They said, oh, because they're from the UK, and they said to me, it's like, oh, Chris, you were in the army. If one day like the US invaded India, would you invade India? I'd be like, yeah, that's my job. I was in the army. That's my role. I'm an American citizen. I'm not an Indian person. And I know that sounds bad, but that is who my allegiance is tied to. This country, not India. Even though I have a Indian heritage, I'm going to defend this country.
Dude, India's not doing shit for you. You're in America. You're not in India right now, right? And there's a heritage belief there, but they're not actually giving you freedoms.
Now, what's really sad is that they're under the impression And this is general belief in the UK, where if, let's say, the UK went to war with like India, they would end up turning on the UK, even though they're British citizens born in Britain. They don't have allegiance to the UK. And there's so many people like that in the UK where they don't have any allegiance, even though they were born in that country.
Right.
And so it's such a weird dynamic. And they consider themselves Indian. I don't know if you have any cousins.
It's probably because the Brits colonized the Indians, and that's also why there's a little bit of
there
tension
could be. There could be. Yeah.
But then again, America, is not the best in terms of our relationship with them. But yeah, I did not know they did a black anthem. That is very interesting. I want to hear some articles. I want to read some articles on that.
It's starting to get to a point where like, to Chris's point, the divisions or the goal to divide people is becoming more and more apparent. I think all of this is honestly just stir the pot for an election year and create a massive divide among the people, so that we don't get together and talk about like the actual issues that these candidates are supposed to be addressing.
Because the Super Bowl is supposed to be the one American thing that unites everyone.
Oh yeah,
right?
even just a few years back, there was a call to say, look, let's not get political on Super Bowl. Let's have one day where we're all just, or like July 4th, let's just have a day where we can celebrate, make some hot dogs, and some burgers, and just have a good time. And no, it's infiltrating everything.
Yeah.
All right,
like I said, it's this concept of separate but equal. You know what I mean? It's becoming a reality. It's really becoming a reality. Like, and it's not just, like I said, I could understand to a certain degree this national anthem, whatever, but then you also have colleges now also doing this thing where they're like, oh, Black only dormitories, right? Or Jewish only dorms. Like, they have these things, and I don't know. For me, I feel like I might look at a person, I'm like, bro, I genuinely don't see color. Like, I don't judge you based on the color of your skin. I'm thinking like, oh, this guy's cool, this guy's not cool. That's it, And the thing is, now it's like, oh, I need to be different around this person because they are different than me. And now what you're doing is you're basically separating yourselves from creating a joint group into creating, hey, maybe I should just stick to only Indian people, or maybe I should just stick to only white people, or you know what I mean? Like, stay within your own racial group. And I hate that, because that's not how I thought America is supposed to be, man. And unfortunately, that's the reality that's coming our way.
Well, that's in defiance of the idea that we all have, that there is a common shared experience by being American that trumps whatever your experience is with your specific racial, social, or socioeconomic group that's supposed to unite people. The most united, I hate to say it, that I've ever felt this country was like the 6 months after 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean,
you just felt like everybody was your friend. There was never any issue. So it would suck if that's what we need, is some sort of external event to unite us and remind people that, like, hey, we're all on the same team here. I see this in my kids' school, like, especially those kids just don't see race at all.
Yeah, they're too young.
They don't even see the gender. Like my kid, I've been doing this thing trying to reward her to use the bathroom on her little potty and get off the diaper. So I buy these toys and I leave them up there, and every time she does it, I give her a toy. And then I'll tell her that, like, Santa is going to bring her some new toys. And I told her I was shopping for Santa, and she's like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Dude, she picked that Princess Tiana. It's like a little black princess. Then she'll pick like a dinosaur or like a little car to play with. Like, she doesn't see the differences between that. She doesn't see a difference between a Disney princess. If you say she's a princess, then she's a princess.
Right.
And it's nice to see, because you realize that, like, all of these things these artificial things that we use to divide ourselves from other people were absolutely taught to us by someone. Yeah. Because when you're not born that way out of the box, that's additional programming that's fed into the OS, because the OS is neutral, Yeah. Kids.
Well,
Joe, don't. Kids are absolutely pure, completely colorblind, absolutely pure. What do they say? The only two people that tell you the truth are drunk people and kids. It's the truth. It's the truth.
So here's something we all maybe can agree on. NVIDIA up 50% in a year, or in year to date, in a month, and being valued more than Amazon is a little insane. Let's start off with you, Chris. Are we in a bubble? Is this ridiculous? And is this going to collapse anytime soon?
Probably not for NVIDIA, because the demand for their chips is so high, and I don't see an end to the demand just yet. I mean, eventually there will be, but NVIDIA is not the one that I would consider a bubble, because they're essentially taking a product that cost them $700 to make from TSMC. So when they buy one of these new AI GPUs, they're buying it like the total cost from what I'm seeing is about $700. Do you know what they sell it to Google, to Microsoft, to Amazon? Do you know what they charge them?
Like
Wholesale?
10,000.
40,000.
Wait, how are the costs only 700 though?
Because the raw materials and the manufacturing costs, that's all TSMC does. They just do contracted manufacturing. NVIDIA sends them the designs, and then TSMC mass produces it, right? And then they're sold to the third parties.
And why can't the other companies do that? Why can't the Google or Amazon do that? Why can't they do something?
Technology, IP, man. There's huge IP. There's huge amount of work and research and development that's been done by NVIDIA that protects them. And if someone just, let's say, wants to do a copycat, they can't. That's one of the reasons why the U.S. is such a strong innovator, is that we can't just copy each other. Like when someone comes up with IP, that is genuine IP. In other countries where IP laws are really weak, people can just come up and basically copy your ideas, which means that a lot of people who've committed the capital to innovation would end up losing their money.
Right.
So in one regard, that's like one of the benefits of being in the US in terms of like the tech, where there's a lot of copyrights, but then there's also like a lot of infringement issues too, where you have these people buying up tons of patents and then becoming patent trolls, because it could be a very small piece of like a giant pie, but then they can really go after you if you even remotely come, and the litigation cost can be very prohibitive. So a lot of new entrants, they have a lot of trouble getting pretty much getting funding too. So it's a whole system, but I think right now NVIDIA is not the one. I'm looking at SMCI, and guys, I was one of the first people that said, look, there is going to be a giant boom in AI hardware accelerator chips that need to be placed in hardware. That is what SMCI, which is Supermicro Computer, does exceptionally well. But the valuation on SMCI has gotten way too crazy. And now, did you see that TikTok that I posted on Twitter?
Which one?
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Me?
I was saying, no, I'm pulling it up,
No.
the TikTok. I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah.
Here it is. So let's watch this real quick, then talk. Here it goes.
Yeah.
So this is what KRIS posted today on SMCI.
SMCI has a 0.3.
That's wrong. That's wrong, by the way.
That is insane. NVIDIA has a 26.3 2026 PE. By that metric, SMCI is 87 times cheaper compared to NVIDIA, and they do very similar businesses. If you hold SMCI for like a few years, you're probably going to be very, very happy. SMCI.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. If that was serious, that's we're in a bubble. It's not going to be good.
But can you just for the sake of definition, define bubble? Because we had this conversation last week. Like define bubble.
Shit's going to pop. It's at $800. It's going to fall back.
All right, then what you're saying is it's overbought.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I have a different definition of a bubble. My definition of a bubble is very simple. When you have a good product, especially a new innovation, and people automatically assume that it's going to be really, really big, and the time frame which they think it's going to be really, really big is so short that the valuations end up becoming way out of spec. So if you look at a lot of innovations that we've had over the course of the 100 years, look at the trains, right? At one point, the railroads were the biggest part of the economy in the United States. Does everyone know that trains were going to be very useful for the 21st century? Yes, absolutely. But everyone was building railroads. You couldn't stop yourself from building a railroad back then. Now, what happened when the bubble burst? It left a lot of trains everywhere. .com, same thing happened. So the internet was the future. We all saw it. We all knew that the internet was the future. But I would say about 95% of those companies in that space, all they had to do was say, oh, we're an internet company, and they just blew up. Right. So not everyone is a real AI company. Not everyone is going to be a real AI player. In Supermicro's example, you just have this over exuberance in this product. The other thing is the industry itself is very cyclical. They have boom and bust cycles. That's why if you look at like the chart of NVIDIA post the crypto boom, the thing crashed and came back up. I mean, granted that there are way more things. I'm distilling it down way too much, but This is a boom and bust cycle. The chip sector is like that, where you have over exuberance when it comes to suppliers ordering. Manufacturers ordering stuff. The suppliers build out inventory, and then 2 years, 3 years later, you realize that they ordered so many chips, and now they're just stuck with a crap ton of inventory.
But don't you think the market's smart enough to know it's boom and bust? Why do you think they keep buying the stock? Is my question.
Because the market's stupid.
Yeah, they go 3-4 months out. But what it sounds like you're saying, Chris, is that like bubble is a term for like an industry that is getting, say, an entire industry that's getting overbought, or an exuberance in markets investing in a specific idea, versus something that's overbought, which is the argument you're saying we're trying to make for a company like NVIDIA, or when certain sectors bump, certain companies get a little bit too rich.
Yep.
Okay, so if you think SMCI is in a bubble, my question then is QQQ, SPY are at all-time highs. 500. Well, first of all, what are you doing with your portfolio? I sold out of all my Google today. I took my profits there. I don't feel comfortable holding Google, especially into the tops that I think we're at in the market right now. Maybe we keep going higher, but how do you feel right now, both of you, about holding stocks while the market's melting up? And where do you think this kind of ends up playing out?
I mean, for me, you have to understand where the positioning should be, because not every. Okay, so the general market itself can be a little bit overbought, but that doesn't mean individual companies are overbought. So as long as you understand the fundamental companies that you're buying, if you're buying it as a value play, if you're buying it as a growth play, if there's a secular trend that company is part of, you'll see a couple of down days here and there that, coalesce with the market. But at the end of the day, they're still going to be growing. They're still going to do really well. Like an example that I would give is something like Celsius. I'm bullish on Celsius, right? I didn't sell any Celsius today. Why? Because I think there's a secular growth trend in Celsius that's happening outside of the valuation that the S&P may have. So I don't think that there's much of a correlation. But on the other hand, if you look at like the major, like the tech industry, they're overbought. Like you look at Microsoft, they're almost at like 40 PE right now. Right?
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So, and some of it is justified, to be fair with you, because there is such a big demand. Their growth is re-accelerating. But like I said, there are times where the market just becomes too over exuberant. And that's when you tend to have these moments where you have to be, somewhat strategic. Like that's why I opened my Palantir position the way I did, because I don't think that there's anything fundamentally wrong with the company long term. I just think that the market is a little bit ahead of itself, and that there could be somewhat of a correction in the general market, and in that general market downturn, Palantir being overvalued also will come down.
Well, here's my question for both of you. What could happen for that S&P to go from 500 back to 470-ish or 460? Like, because inflation's coming down, we're going to get a nice CPI tomorrow. Like, what do you think actually happens that creates the pullback? Because I don't know what it is, quite frankly, outside of people taking profits, but I don't know if that's enough.
Well, I know what it is. I know what it is, but go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Carlos. Then we'll get.
What earnings are coming up this week?
Not like, Robinhood, Coinbase, Shopify, not like the big companies that control the market per se. Those are done, and they performed great. NVIDIA's in 2 weeks. That's going to be a very big one, but like earnings were good. Google earnings were good. Microsoft were good.
That'll be a telling one. That'll be a telling one. If NVIDIA keeps doing that, get ready. The rally is going to continue. You can attribute all of this really going back to Q2 last year when NVIDIA had that breakout quarter.
Yeah.
We're still, these are the fumes. People are still breathing the fumes of that.
Yeah.
So I would say that's definitely going to affect markets one way or the other. But aside from that, I'm curious what your answer, Chris, but aside from that, again, given an election year, I think it's going to be hard to get any sort of real substantial pullback that won't be more than a buying opportunity. I just see that this year is going to be either a good year to accumulate or sit on your winners and pull some profits towards the end of the year. That's my opinion.
So to me, when I look at the market, right, the market, what it does is it runs on expectations rather than reality. Okay. So if I expect you, Amit, to do well next year, I invest in you. You understand? Now, the thing is, if you don't meet those expectations, I get sold off. Right. That is all there really is. When it comes to earnings, that's what it is. The analysts, they set a target. If you hit the target or above and you give a really good guidance going forward, you raise people's expectations, which means you raise people's targets. that they want to make sure that they buy so they're not missing out on these higher guidances, right? But if the expectations are coming down, that's the problem. So right now, if you look at all the companies that took giant hits, usually it's because they expect their expectations and their earnings. They were like, oh yeah, you know what? We're going to see a slowdown. I mean, sometimes the company just has to be honest with its shareholders and say, hey, listen, we are going to be slowing down. You look at Palantir. Why did Palantir run up so much? I think it's very simple, because Alex Karp, the entire time that he was presenting, was what? He was ultra bullish. What happened? The market rewarded that ultra bullishness with a ton of investing. You know, right. Alex KRIS, like you guys said, he set the expectations low because he was boring, all that stuff that you want to say. I thought the numbers were good, but at the same time, the expectation of PayPal doing exceptionally well kind of went out the door. So what did people do? They sold it off. Sundar Pichai, right? What did he not do? He did not communicate the level of enthusiasm going forward. So what did the market do? They sold him off. So that, you know what, if he's not enthusiastic about their future prospects, why should I be? Right? Compare that to Andy Jassy and the team over at Amazon and Meta and Zuckerberg. What did they do? They set the expectation high so that this way people followed along. So the question here now is, are expectations for a lot of these companies being set too high? And I think in Palantir's case, that may be the case.
But what would be the catalyst for the broader market, like the S&P taking a dump? Like, what would have to happen macro-wise, you think? Because I can't figure out the macro reason. Well,
I mean,
like, what happens? Like a 10% correction, we knew what September, October, inflation was reaccelerating. That's where we got the Halloween dip. What happens over the next 5 months that actually causes that?
Well, that's you just answered your own question, right? The expectations right now is that we are definitely going to get a rate cut. Remember, the expectation in January, February was what? That we were going to get a March rate cut.
Yeah.
When we didn't, now that that's been pushed back, everyone's like, oh, we're going to get a May rate cut. Now people are saying we might not even get a June rate cut because the jobs market is so strong. So a lot of people's expectations for when the Fed is going to be cutting may be a little bit too ahead of itself. And even I am readjusting my thesis on when that's going to be. Like I was pretty firm on June, but even now I'm like, hey, maybe it might not be until September.
Why?
Because the numbers just look too good to warrant a rate cut. You know, if you think about it, look at the number of jobs that are being added, right? So labor market
remains like 350,000 last month. It was a lot.
Right. They remain tight. If the Fed's policy goal is to get to 2%, they're still almost 100 basis points off of that goal, you know? So yes, there can be made there's an argument that can be made that they should start lowering rates now so that they don't put us into a recession. But at the same time, they can't do it so quickly that they're going to reignite inflation. The last thing they want to do is get inflation wrong. You know, if you look at what happened in the 1970s and 80s, they got it wrong where they started cutting too quickly and boom, skyrocketed again. So the Fed does not want to get it wrong. They got transitory wrong, so they are not looking to get this wrong again.
But my thing is, even if we don't get a rate cut, like the CBS interview with Jerome Powell, the market didn't care when he said, you know, we're not.
What do you mean the market didn't care? It cared. It sold off the next day.
The market's at 503.
But it wasn't as big as.
It cared for like a day.
Mitch talking about when's the market going to like take a shit. This is different from a correction or them.
I don't think anyone has an answer to this question, which is why I'm still bullish. I know I sold some stuff today just because short term I'm a little scared, but like.
So the question here that I would ask is, what kind of correction are you looking for? Are you looking for 5%, 10%, 20%?
I'm looking for 10%. Like every year we get at least a 10% pullback in the S&P for at least at one point of the year. It's happened, I think, for the past 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, when's 450 on the S&P coming?
Hey, listen, if you knew that, bro, you should be on Wall Street.
You, Chris. I'm trying to figure this shit out.
Let me know.
I don't know.
Buy the
I don't know. I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm not going to try to short the market, with the exception of Palantir, which I think is a little overvalued. But I will not probably participate in this over exuberance for much longer. I'd say I'd rather just chill a little bit, wait for the pullback, have some liquidity on the side so that this way, when the opportunity comes, I can strike, you know. So I sold a few things myself just to be on the safe side. I have some liquidity on the side. So if things do take a dump, not a huge dump, I'm talking about maybe a 5 to 7%, you know, retracement. I'll have liquidity to buy in and really ride it back up higher, because I think we'll see a bunch of V-shaped, moves higher throughout the year. So
That's what I've been doing. It sucks because I actually enjoy the process of investing, and it's like I'm not as active as I want to be, but I do feel like it's going to pay off because I'm holding a substantial amount of cash on the side.
All right, so Carlos, give us your thoughts on this one. Floor is yours. Bitcoin 50 freaking K. What were your raw thoughts when you saw this? Where were you this morning when you saw this?
I was actually taking the dump.
Okay, did you look at your portfolio right after?
I woke up late and I was like, let me just open it up. And I was like, oh shit. That's when I posted it on Twitter. I posted a screenshot, but it was at 49,000. Then it crossed 50. Do you realize that at 50,000, okay, it is closer to its all-time high than it was to, say, even like 30,000. So 70,000 is all-time high, right?
Yeah,
it's as close to 70 as it is to 30. And 30, we feel like we could hit that tomorrow, like any day. Like that's how close we are getting back to to all-time highs. We're also equally as far away to 100K as we are to zero. Think about that. So
okay.
no, that was great to see. But man, this is just a pressure cooker. This thing is building. These ETFs are now buying Bitcoin daily, and they are buying something like 12 days worth of the newly created Bitcoin supply every day.
Do we want to hear Michael Saylor talk about that for 2 minutes?
Oh yeah. He had a good one. Pomp also had some good thing on CNBC. The point is, you've just got so much fucking upward pressure coming. This is going to be so fun to watch.
Yeah, let's hear what he has to say. MicroStrategy, by the way, guys, went from 720 to 450 back to 720
in a month.
And if you rode that to the upside or downside, you probably made a lot of money.
Outperforming all of those ETFs. Walk me through your outlook for Bitcoin, and then we'll jump into earnings.
I think a lot of this is just indicative of the popularity of Bitcoin as an asset class. It's now the world's most popular investment asset. It's novel, it's digital, it's global, it's unique, and it's uncorrelated to traditional risk assets because it doesn't come with exposure to any given country, currency, company, quarterly result, product cycle, competitor, not to weather, not to war, not to an employee base or supply chain. And so that makes it a natural addition to the portfolio of a responsible investor. There's 10 years of pent-up demand. People have been waiting for these ETFs, and finally, mainstream investors are able to access Bitcoin. And I think that's what's driving the surge of capital in the asset class. And initially, there was a rebalancing as people were moving capital between the futures market and the miners and MicroStrategy and the ETFs. But following that rebalancing, I think the assets found its footing. And now people are beginning to realize that there's 10 times as much demand for Bitcoin coming in through these ETFs as there is supply coming from the natural sellers who are the miners.
Yeah, and of course we're going to get the halving event, which imagine will sort of shift some of those supply-demand dynamics coming into the spring as well. Earnings last week, you rebranded the company or announced the rebranding of the company as a Bitcoin development company. What does that mean?
Well, it's a natural decision for us, given the success of our Bitcoin strategy and our unique status as the world's largest public company holder of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is an operating company that can actively manage its capital structure and its business operations with more flexibility than an investment trust, which is what these spot ETFs are. So we're going to develop software. We're going to generate cash flow. We're going to leverage the capital markets, all in order to accumulate more Bitcoin for our shareholders, and also to promote the growth of the Bitcoin network. Given the fact that the majority of enterprise value is now based upon those Bitcoin-related activities, it makes sense for us to call ourselves a Bitcoin development company in the same way as you see a real estate development company or a petroleum development company.
Yeah, and
all right, so Saylor is bullish. I guess, Carlos, the question to you here is, do you just think that the inflow keeps rolling higher because these ETFs are now are net positive every single day, and is that the catalyst?
The ETFs have to continue to purchase this. They're purchasing up more than the supply that is being created per day. So automatically, this is slowly increasing the value of Bitcoin. But as people stop selling, and once we have the halving event, the supply, there's going to be a massive supply shock. In addition to that, we don't know when it is, but rate cuts are going to happen. So you get these three things coming together. the ETFs actually being approved in January was a really good thing. It gave time for, like Sailor was saying, for things to rebalance. Now that they're in play, the hype is gone. We're not wondering anymore if it's going to happen. Here it is, and they're actively buying. I think now we get through that. We have the halving event, and that will lead us to rate cuts wherever it is in the year. And I'm having a hard time trying to come up with, like, what is the bear case at this point? What is going to collapse this currency? And it's insane to me that I've seen someone posted it in the chat. What is it? That we're at like 20 million. There's only like about 1 million or so Bitcoins left. And it's going to be, forget it. It's going to be, 100 years before the last one's mine. But the point is, it's just funny to me how it took basically almost all the Bitcoins to be already in existence for people to jump on the train. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
right.
we're at 1 million left, and there was so much time to accumulate. I mean, even me, I kick myself for not accumulating more earlier, but I'm really having a hard time trying to figure out what's the bear case on crypto right now. I mean, everything that Michael Saylor was saying, a lot of the previous bear cases are actually being shown to be good bull cases. So I sleep really comfortably at night, and I'm just honestly in a waiting game. I just want to wake up and see the, 6-digit Bitcoin, and that's it. I have a really a conversation with my wife, a long time in the making.
Have you imagined how you're going to sell it? Are you going to do like a nice swipe up, or are you going to do like a slow swipe up as your Bitcoin goes away forever? Like, how are you going to do
One time I did sell a little bit. I set up the screen and I had my daughter push it.
Ah, that's cute.
Because I want to show her that video at some point and be like, look, this is
how you pay for college, right?
We got it started from the bottom. Now we're here. No, but I'm increasingly more confident that this is going to be the investment of the year, which is great because Tesla's been taking a shit. So
it seems like, we'll talk about Tesla. It seems like semis and crypto. I mean, Clean Spark is up almost 50% in 2 days. Like semis and crypto might end up being the 2024
big thing. Yeah. Look, if I was like permanently employed right now, I would have dumped a bunch of money into Clean Spark. Yeah. That was the one thing that I was like, it's irresponsible, even though I felt like it was going to ride. And I was like, I got to be responsible, Dad. But that was the one. Even now, even at these levels, I just feel like there's still a lot of upside, especially maybe for the next year or two.
All right, let's talk about Tesla. Tesla's down 2% on a day that was really green. Chris, you have a thesis around car inventory. What are you thinking is happening right now in the car market?
There's a huge buildup in new car inventory, and that's bad. So the number of days that there's actually inventory available is super high relative to the interest rates right now that exist. So basically, dealerships are sitting on a crap ton of inventory, and they're going to have to move that inventory because it costs them money to keep those cars on the lot. They're still paying interest and everything else on them. So you're going to see a lot of price cutting within the ICE and even some of the EV and hybrid models, which means that Tesla is going to have to compete against them, in which case there may be a price war that's going to happen. Also, at the same time, oil prices are relatively low and stable. U.S. production is just off the charts right now. So gas prices look to be, going to be pretty manageable. Like Tesla does exceptionally well when gas prices go super high. That's not necessarily the case right now. So I think Tesla gets dragged down to below 150. I think their sales numbers are going to come in a lot weaker than people think. They're going to have to keep price cutting. And as they keep price cutting, the margins are going to keep going lower and lower, in which case Tesla, for all the stuff that we can say about it being an energy company, is still fundamentally a car company. And they're gonna feel the ramifications of that. So they're gonna get closer to their, not like too close to their peers in the car industry, but in terms of multiple, they're gonna get a huge multiple contraction. So I think Tesla goes below 150.
Does this data include Tesla vehicles?
It includes everything.
Because I'm having trouble finding what Tesla's inventory is. I just think the way that traditional
look at used Tesla prices too. I mean, they're down all over the board.
Yeah, that's different. I mean, we're just talking about how many days of inventory on hand. The way Tesla handles their inventory is just vastly different because they don't have a dealership network. So a lot of these companies do flood the dealerships with these vehicles, and then they'll sell them either at cost or, you know, or above that. I just don't think that Tesla inventory is the same as these other companies. The other thing too that I've been seeing is a bit of a disconnect. Before, like the big selling point is like, oh my God, Tesla vehicles are cheaper. So your point of like when gas prices are higher, that Tesla sells more. There's enough Teslas out there where people are buying them just because they want those vehicles. I don't agree that it's all of a sudden gas prices are back up, so someone's going to go back and rush and buy a gas vehicle, because the price can just as easily go back up. I think people are buying these vehicles because they want them, not necessarily because of comparing them to ICE vehicles. I think that we're moving past that as a reason why people buy these cars.
There's also another big factor that I'm not sure a lot of people are factoring in. Amit, can you pull up my tweet on the insurance rates for cars? This is another major challenge that I suppose not a lot of people are really talking about. The second one, higher, a little lower, right there. Yep. So the other thing is car insurance premiums are just skyrocketing. You know, a combination of reasons why this is happening is because, number one, the cost of new cars right now are just, you know, they're just loaded up with all sorts of knickknacks in there. So the costs are astronomically more compared to, you know, just a few years ago. On top of it, the cost of labor to repair them is also exceptionally high. So one of the problems that I'm seeing, especially with EVs, is if you get a regular ICE car versus an EV, especially a Tesla, dude, expect to pay almost double the amount of insurance to insure a Tesla versus an ICE car. And that's the quotes that I'm hearing. I'm not sure if that's 100% objectively real, but that is what I'm hearing. And it's at this point, it's no longer anecdotal. So Tesla itself, like the electric cars, they just cost way more to insure. So any price point, any savings that you could have gotten from using, you know, electricity versus just gasoline goes out the door once you factor in the higher cost to insure the cars. Yeah.
That's just, oh, look, it could be that I'm in the biggest EV car market, but that's just not the case out here. Teslas are cheaper because they have, first of all, they have much less maintenance. Second of all, they really they don't fall susceptible to some of the things that an ICE vehicle would. So, for example, stealing or getting into accidents. There are so many more active safety features in a Tesla, and it's really hard to steal a Tesla. Those are the two things that the insurance companies don't want to pay for. They don't want to pay if your car crashes, and they don't want to give you the money if someone steals it, right? And so when I was on the phone with my insurance carrier, even when I was insuring two Teslas, it was not that expensive for two of these vehicles a month. The amount of money that I paid for a Model Y was on par with what I was paying for a Mercedes CLA 250, a sedan. So I'm getting a bigger vehicle, right? I'm getting an SUV CUV for roughly the same price as I was getting for a gas vehicle. So no, I don't see that. The other thing too is Tesla actually does offer insurance. I spoke to a buddy of mine. I disqualified it the other day because I was like, oh, they have that. What is it called? They have that driver score. You know, that you remember before when you wanted to get FSD, you had to drive and like basically get your driver score, your safety score, and if it was below a certain number, you couldn't get access to it. Well, so Tesla gets that information of you driving in the background, and apparently they adjust their rates based on that. But from what my buddy told me, in California, it's actually illegal for Tesla to use that to adjust your premium, because that was the big reason why. I'm like, you sell me a vehicle that can do 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds or 2.5 seconds. Then I'm racing around the neighborhood and you're going to bang me in insurance for being like a reckless driver. I mean, that seems like a little bit ridiculous. But my buddy told me, he's like, I did it on the app. I went there the other day just to check the quote. It was easily, $50, $60 cheaper. And he hit the button and he was switched over to Tesla insurance. So
can you show this right here real quick, Amit? So this is from Forbes. Like I said, I don't know 100% where the data is coming from, but Forbes is, in my opinion, reputable enough that they're somewhat probably in the ballpark. So right now, this is what it costs to insure the car. This is probably a general view. I'm sure that depending on your age and your driving style, it could, and the discount you get from multiple cars, it could be different. So don't use this as just a giant benchmark. Like, use this just to get an understanding or a gauge. So the cheapest vehicles to insure right now is like a Honda CRV, which is about $1,500 a year. And so these are the company there right here. What do you think is the most expensive car to insure?
I don't know.
Wouldn't it be like a Lambo or something?
a Tesla Model S Performance, and the most expensive. So they're paying almost $4,000 a year in that. Then the Tesla Model 3 Standard Plus is $2,500. You know, once again, I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but this falls in line with what I'm hearing when it comes to what it costs to insure a Tesla. Now, here's a question: what does it cost you to insure your Tesla, Carlos? Is it
300?
anywhere near these numbers?
No, it's 300.
$300 a month?
Let me check.
That's 3,600.
Let me
That's
check.
close. That's basically
No,
Yeah,
I
for
think
me,
I
it's
was
like-
paying. I would think I was paying 308 for the two. So I have-
Okay, 308 for two.
for the two.
for
Yeah.
2 cars.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually not too bad then. Yeah. that's
No,
not
it
bad.
wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
Interesting. So, Chris, you think this is the reason why Tesla's numbers are going to shit over the next 2 quarters in terms of deliveries?
I think
And
it's
that's what's
just expectations, man. The expectations are 50% year-over-year growth, remember, and now it's not there. So what do you what do you think is going to happen to the stock price? The expectations are getting lowered by the quarter. So, and Elon's kind of going a little bit bizarro world on Twitter.
Yeah, can we talk
man.
about
I mean,
that? Can we talk about that?
Look,
This is-
I am all about free speech, but god damn, some of the shit that he's saying is starting to get real fucking weird, man. You know,
that's what I said today on my market close. I love Elon. I love when he says stupid shit because it's fun. It's him being a CEO. It's awesome. But this shit, dude,
These
this is
nuts.
just
That was
weird.
hilarious, but
I think it's
it
hilarious.
was really funny. It's just
I think it's
weird.
funny.
At
I
this
think it's
point.
funny. But the point is like when people say the stock is tanking because people don't like what Elon is saying. What does that have to do with the company? Like if that's literally what it is. Elon is saying something that we don't like, so we're going to sell their stock and punish them because we don't like that they said these nuts.
No, but don't you? I agree
It's
with you.
the
But
silliest thing for
don't you
a
think
market.
that's how it? That's a CEO, right? Like if Zuckerberg says some wild shit tomorrow,
I wouldn't
Is it-
care.
I mean, you won't care, but institutional investors are like, we can't. hold this.
Okay, but here's the thing: if I make a comment about effects that say Meta products have on people, we say we're not going to consider that. He's a killer. He's a great businessman. He's just doing whatever. How is that any different?
No, I'm
Well,
saying
that-
let's say Zuckerberg comes out tomorrow and says Asian people are idiots,
All right.
right? Or
So he
something
comes
like,
out tomorrow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he says
Yeah,
something
okay.
racist.
So he
Like,
comes
he's
out
married to an Asian, by the way. Just letting you know.
But that would make it even worse, Chris. That would make it even worse. He would say all Asians except my wife are idiots, and the stock tanks 10-15%. And you say to yourself, okay, so because he said that,
I would buy that dip, dude.
Do you hear-
I would not be an idiot at that moment.
do you see the hypocrisy in that? It's like we can show evidence that whether it's intentional or not, the use of your platforms has a negative effect on society in these realms. Stock doesn't move. No one cares because
No, that's a good point.
But if he says Asians are this, then we go, okay, no Asians. Would you say no? Would you say Asians are the except my wife? Asians are idiots. Okay.
Remember when the Papa John CEO said the N-word, right? Like there are certain moments where you say stuff. I'm not saying Elon did anything like that bad, but I mean, dude, he's talking about illegal immigrants all day. He's talking about LGBTQ conspiracy theories. Like the guy's kind of weird right now.
But when we have those sort of philosophical conversations, what do we always say? Markets are agnostic of that. They're supposed to be agnostic of politics, agnostic of religion, agnostic of whatever. Because here's the end. What's the end game, right? Say someone goes, hey, Badri, what's his religion? Say Bosley's a Muslim. We don't like him, so we're going to tank that stock because he's a Muslim.
Yeah, but there will be enough people to buy the dip on that because that's a
But you
stupid
get what
reason.
you get my point. If you start to value a company or pretend to value a company, or the stock price is affected by who that CEO is personally, then markets are completely disconnected from fundamentals. We're supposed to be looking at PE. We're supposed to be listening to earnings.
Wait, let me ask you this question, Carlos. Should
Items.
we have a world where public CEOs are tweeting the type of salacious memes Elon's tweet? Like, would it be a good society if every public CEO was just putting out these, quite frankly, 3-year-old type of tweets on Twitter? Like, would that be a good thing for America?
I would love to see the CEOs going on social media and just being themselves. As a matter of fact,
I don't think anyone wants to see that. I don't think anyone wants to see
I would
those.
love to see them just being themselves. Part of the reason why I think we gravitate towards certain CEOs is because their social media presence feels a bit like who they are in person.
I don't want to see the CEO of Boeing tweeting his sex memes when you're supposed to be making sure the airplanes are good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel comfortable going on your airplane when that's the CEO.
Imagine he put a meme on there like, oopsie, another plane just crashed. Oopsie.
Yeah, that
Dude, yeah. Like, I don't want to see that shit, dude. You know, Elon gets away with it, but
No, but
Or
it's
my bad,
different.
bro. My bad. You know.
But if the Boeing CEO did that, that's I think that crosses a line because you're making fun of people that have died. Okay, like and that was your fault.
you don't think Elon crossed the line by saying D's nuts on Disney?
Who died? Who died because of these nuts? How was it insensitive? In my point, how was it insensitive?
I'm just like, I'm trying to think of another. Like, I don't want to see like Robin Hood, right? When that kid committed, he offed himself on when he lost 700,000 on margin in 2020. If Vlad tweeted, you know, just like, I'm just saying, like, it's
what you're saying is it's a false comparison because in that sense you're making light of a situation that was actually a
but that's the point of a meme. You're supposed to make a joke out of something.
I know, but that's one way of using a meme. Elon does not use memes.
Right. I'm gonna say something controversial. Part 2. Okay. The leftists, they're not into funny when it's against them. Right now, there is a concerted effort by the left. I'm sorry if you're super liberal, you hate Elon, okay, because of what he is. So basically, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag. I'm just going to say it openly. If you're a leftist, you cannot take a joke. You used to be able to take a joke. You leftists used to be hilarious, but now you've gone so goddamn far left that even the smallest thing, like this Disney thing, most people should just laugh it off. But now a lot of people are going to be like, nah, man, no, I can't. This is not funny. This is not funny. I think it's hilarious. But, it is funny. You know, that's the world we live in. That's the world we live in. Sorry.
The point is,
it's funny, but not when the stock is down 30%. But I agree with you. It is.
No, it's funny wherever the stock is. And I think that's the point.
No, I don't think a lot of people, if the stock was $400, it would be way funnier, dude. When the stock's at struggling for 190, it's like not the funniest, I would argue. You know,
I think it's as funny if the stock's at $100 or if the stock's at.
That's because your average is like 5 cents, but for everyone else who has, you know,
well, once again, it's dangerous to go down the road that you're going. Right? If you start thinking in that way, then what you start saying is what you're doing is you're playing right up to the narrative that they want to push. That Elon again needs to control himself and needs to do certain things, or even if the fundamentals mean the stock should be valued as this, we're not going to value it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I'm not trying to be the guy here that says Elon shouldn't be tweeting these. I love this shit, dude. When I saw it, I quote tweeted, I was like, this is fucking hilarious. When Elon did that meme with the girl who was riding the guy, but he was watching Javier's speech at the like, I thought it was hilarious. I love, like, it was so good, dude. It was great. But at some level, I feel like people that have a lot of big money in this stock are just going to get annoyed. And I don't know, maybe it sells off, maybe it doesn't. But I think Elon gets away with it. I think he's the only CEO that can actually get away with it.
But the point of the sell-off is specifically to protest Elon.
Yes, you don't like how the CEO's acting. So you say, I'm going to move on. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. The market decides. But if that's more bad than good.
But Elon's, look, and again, I don't want to belabor this point. Elon's whole point was this is not a battle that he started. The politics came after him when all he wanted to do was leave his factories open during COVID, and then the political left started to attack him, and then that unraveled to a million other things. When then he bought Twitter, and once he made free speech and was able to challenge the prevailing narratives, this is absolute character assassination. They are trying to get rid of this guy, and if they can't do it directly because they tried a bunch of financial levers, well, then they punish the stock and hope that people like you say, Elon, you really got to behave yourself because if you don't, mommy's going to sell our stock. So do what they want because I need my stock to go higher. And it's basically trying to provoke people's profit motives to get Elon under control in a way that those same powers can't do directly.
But Carlos, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think it's bad because of what Elon's fighting for, but there's a reason people voted Trump over Biden 8 years ago. It's because they knew Trump would make the stock market go up. And when he says some stupid shit about China, Hillary. And if he says some stupid shit about China, they know, you know, maybe their stocks go down. So like you always want your representative, whether it's the CEO or
he did say in the campaign stupid shit about China. He was like, I'm going to slap.
Yeah, but then he started a whole trade
war. I'm going to make them right. He said things that at that time were like, why would you say that? What the fuck are you saying that? You know what I mean?
My point is, I agree with you because I believe in Elon's mission about free speech. So I agree with I agree with that metaphor you're saying about trying to get him to change. I'm just saying it's not bad to want someone who you've invested capital in. And in my case, it's a couple $1,000, and some people it's hundreds of millions of dollars to act a certain way if they're a steward of your capital. Now, Elon has defied every law of gravity. He has proven everyone wrong, so he gets that freedom. I'm just saying generally, I don't want the Boeing CEO doing what Elon's doing because the Boeing CEO is not Elon Musk.
Right, but the example that you gave with the Boeing CEO making light of someone falling out of one of his planes is not. This for the record. That's not.
I don't want to see sex
You know
scenes
what-
from the Boeing CEO either, dude. I don't
You know when this makes sense? Did you guys see the video of John Cena apologizing to in Chinese in the Mandarin?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, did you see that? That is an example. Okay, that's the example. When we see American businesses or CEOs bending the knee to the CCP, and you see them basically doing the bidding of the CCP, that's exactly what the powers in America want from Elon. And when you see John Cena doing that, you're like, why don't you just tell him to go fuck off? Like, well, no, you can't. It's China. You
Well, no,
can't.
because they're not going to put the movie on in China. That's why he apologized.
Exactly. So, but that's the same thing. That's the same threat that's happening. We're not going to increase the stock. We're going to sell up the stock if you don't do what we say. What I'm saying is we don't need that here. We can recognize it as not being good business practices, or just not good for society in general. If that's the case, when we see it happening in China or with American companies in China, but when it's happening here, if you happen to align ideologically with the oppressors, then it just seems like, no, this is combating disinformation and misinformation.
Good point.
Thing
Yep.
is, when you keep going, now you get rid of all the Elons. Now there's no one saying any of that stuff. Then you get rid of anyone. Then you get rid of the next guy. What are you eventually left with, right? Eventually, nothing is legal. You can't say anything, and you get, Garcia was talking about it, politically correct humor. There's these freaking amazing compilations of politically correct humor. No one's laughing. It's just silent, and like they're the
Look, regardless, Elon's giving us a cheaper price, and that's what we should be grateful for.
yeah. And
Memes
I'm
are giving
actually,
us a fucking
I'm
cheap price.
actually thinking about call options. I think call options is the right move at this point, because I'll go on record as saying this. At some point, Bezos was the most hated. Zuckerberg was the most hated. Bill Gates was the most hated. Elon will be once again celebrated as one of the entrepreneurs of our time. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Dude, the Zuckerberg pivot in the past 18 months has been, this guy was the most hated man in I would say the world. Forget America.
He helped the Democrats get elected, and they did what they were supposed to do, which is protect them. There was that whole theater show a week and a half.
He also started working out in the UFC.
Yeah, then he started working out.
That helped.
It will happen. It will happen. And for the people that say, "Oh, Elon's distracted," he was running 5 companies before.
I think the Elon distracted argument is stupid, dude. Elon is an alien when it comes to getting work done. He's not distracted. I think he's just like, he just likes to fucking fuck with people. Yeah. And this is what he's doing all day. He's fucking with people while he's building the cars.
Yeah. But I don't know who he's hurting, if not the people that we would want to be hurt by this. If him doing what he's doing means we're going to get fairer elections, or we're going to have more information, even if the end result of the elections are the same, wouldn't you just want to have the full plate of information, or as much as possible? Let's get all, if that's what that means, and I'm all for it. I am all for it.
So here's a question. Here's a topic we can end. What are some of your favorite movies that you've been watching recently? I will go first. Dude, Blade Runner 2049. I am obsessed with that movie. I freaking love that movie.
The new one?
The from 2017. Dude, it's when I first saw it, it was like, oh, okay, whatever. But as I started watching it, I watched it like twice, because I was like, wow, you know what? There are certain key concepts in there that are worth exploring. And dude, it is a freaking masterpiece in both like visual effects. The acting was amazing. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there any movies that you've seen that is just like wowed you, that, you know, are more like older movies, but you only had a chance to watch them now?
I mean, I haven't watched anything. I'm trying to think the last movie that
I've been watching Palantir's ticker go up and down and up and down. It's called the green and red candles of Palantir for the past, what is it, 175 hours straight. It's a really exciting, like sometimes it goes super, super up and you get a climax, and then it goes down, and it's actually more exciting than Netflix. I'm not gonna lie.
No, my wife's trying to get me to watch that new thing with Sofia Vergara.
What, Griselda?
On Netflix? Yeah, Griselda.
Dude, I watched like 2 minutes of it. I got so fucking bored. I turned that shit off.
She says, you know, after a while, it picks up. She's trying to get me on that.
TJ's watching that too. He likes it a lot.
Oh, he is? Oh, I got to talk to him about that.
Scarface was not the best. Shawshank Redemption, I think, is better than Scarface. I'll go on the record. I'll say that.
They're different, but they're good.
Interstellar. That's a good one.
Interstellar.
Yeah, did you guys ever see God damn it! It was just like on the tip of my tongue. The Christian Bale Equilibrium with Christian Bale.
No,
you need to watch it. That is probably like every leftist dream. You know what I mean? You ever seen that? Well, you wouldn't know, Amit, because you haven't seen it. But basically, it's like this entire society that's based on just very like non-confrontation. And the thing with it is that every morning you got to wake up and you got to take this medicine called Prosium, right? And it basically just dulls you so you don't feel anything. It's such a good movie. And then once you like understand what's actually happening, he like Christian Bale just, you know, doesn't take his Prosium one day and he starts to wake up to the idea of what actually makes life worth living. And it makes you realize that, hey, you know what? A lot of the stuff that we put in place to basically provide order, that is how tyrants get into power, because people
That's
will
what Carlos was talking
sacrifice,
about. Yeah.
people will sacrifice freedom for order, but then the order goes so far that it's almost like you're living this fucking shell of a life where you don't actually get to live, you know.
Well, and you only need honestly, you only need one generation to eradicate all the progress of the previous generations, because those children will be born and not know any different. This is why I think with these sorts of things, the censorship, all that, we really have to be very, very cautious with how we use it, and as little as possible.
Dude, that's why I think the best thing Elon did over the past 2 years is buy Twitter, because
I think so.
Allowing people to, I mean, it may be not the best for Tesla in the short term. Long term, I think it'll definitely be beneficial, but giving people an outlet to say the word COVID or pandemic, or say, hey, I don't like Joe Biden, or just I don't like the Chinese government. Like,
happen to catch the Lex Friedman moderated interview or debate between Ben Shapiro and Destiny?
I don't watch it the whole time. I saw they did it, but I didn't watch it.
Watch that. I mean, look, I don't necessarily agree with everything that either one of them says, but it was nice to hear people that are well respected in their particular ideological circles sitting down and actually getting into it. It's 3 hours long. It flies. Just put it on two speed. And I start to say to myself, why aren't our political debates that way? Why does it have to be some random fucking YouTuber? It was a Twitch guy debating some guy from a journalist, basically. Right.
Yeah.
Why can't our politicians sit down and do this? This idea that, like, even Trump, who won't go to the debates, I don't agree with that. If you're running for the country, you got to show up at the debates, and you got to get out there. And you got.
They don't want to sit down for 3 hours and actually voice their.
Sit down for 3 hours. Sit down for 5 hours. If we can sit down and watch a bunch of men running around with a football for 4 hours and a shitty halftime show, you're telling me we can't sit down and watch these two leaders, potential leaders of the country, hashing it out? Because a lot of it is. It's easy to be good for 15 minutes, right? It's easy to put on an act for 30, but 2-3 hours later, you naturally fall into your who you are as a person. And I think it would be great. The movie, Chris, this movie, you would love this movie. I was catching a bit of this the other day. It's called The Invention of Lying. Did you hear this? It was a 2009 romantic comedy. Written and directed by Ricky Gervais, so it's hysterical. And basically, we live in a society where no one can ever lie, and Ricky Gervais becomes the first guy who inadvertently invents lying. And it's funny because they don't have a word for it.
It's on Netflix?
In that society. I don't know if it's yeah, it's so good.
They got Jonah Hill.
Yeah, Louis C.K. is in it. It's fucking funny because it shows some of the ridiculousness of our society, but through the lens of comedy. It's so funny. So, like, no one can lie in this world. You can't lie. So a guy's on a date with a chick and he's like, how do you think it's going? She's like, you're not getting late tonight. Like, blah, blah, blah. Or like her mom calls while she's on a date and she's like, just talks about him while he's there. Like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to fuck him tonight, but whatever. Just like hangs up and then they finish. It's really like weird and awkward. But then like the next day, Ricky Gervais goes to the bank and he needed $800 for something, but he only had $300 in the bank. And the teller asked him, how much money do you want to withdraw? So he wanted to withdraw $800, but he only had $300. So he was like, $800. And then she's like, oh, you don't have enough. And then she's like, oh, wait a minute. There was an error. Yeah. And she gives him the money. So he's like, oh my God. And he realizes that like lying becomes a power. And then he goes to lunch with Louis C.K. and tries to explain to him what he just did. It's like, I said the truth, but it wasn't really the truth. And they don't have a word for it. It's fucking funny. You should check it out. It's good.
Yeah, I'll actually watch it. That's good.
It made me laugh.
All right. This is a good one, guys. We got CPI tomorrow. We'll see what happens to the markets. Thank you, 600 people, for being here. Steve will hopefully make it tomorrow, and we'll talk to him. Yeah, we got 600. So
yeah, I'm looking forward. You're doing a live stream with Jesse
tomorrow. Yeah, Robinhood earnings. That's a big one for me. I'm either going to make a lot of money or lose a lot of money. So.
What do you think? We got 2 minutes. What are we doing? Let's do I think it's going to be good for them. I think it's going to be good.
I think Robinhood's going to.
I think it's going to be good for them.
Dude, I think it's going to be good. I don't want to go through the entire thing, but I think it's going to be good. And if it's good, then I'm going to get rid of my initial from one of my positions. The other position, I'm going to sell everything. And
are you in Hood, Chris?
No, he's not in Hood. He's not in it.
No, I'm not in.
Nothing? No spreads, no calls, no puts, nothing?
Nope.
Interesting.
This one's all AMIT, man. This is all AMIT.
All right, I'm it. The
Me,
training wheel.
dude. If it tanks the bet, I'm gonna have to take this L like a man.
Yeah.
And if it goes up, I'm gonna have some juicy profits. So we'll fucking see.
I don't
This
think
is
they'll
fun.
take it like a man. Crypto run-ups are always good for Robinhood because they make a crap ton of money on the transactions for crypto. They take pennies for stocks, but I think they take dollars from crypto. So just I wouldn't worry as much as you think. With crypto like having run last quarter back and forth, I think you're fine. So
It'll be cool. It'll be my first big public thing outside of Palantir because this one's, I've
you've
kind of
done well already though, right?
Yeah, but this is one like I want my due diligence.
Because it's
to pay
been
off.
trading in that channel, that little.
It's
sliver.
been depressed for 22 months, dude.
Yeah.
It's time for this bitch to break out. Like it's,
Yeah.
and I have confidence that it will
Well,
because of all the due diligence around it. But
ET
we'll see.
face
The market's crazy, dude.
subscribe. If it tanks, it's all your fault. We
Yeah,
lost
he's gonna
subscribe.
unsubscribe. I don't know. We'll see. I've been talking to a lot of people the past couple of months, dude. People that are much smarter than me on Twitter. I found these all across the world. I'm like, yo, am I stupid? Like, what do you think? And I'm just DMing so many people. I'm like, I think I've really confirmed this should work. this should fucking work, dude. Like,
You sound like the scientist in that movie when they built the bomb, and he's like, "This is how we defuse it. Now that should work, but I'm gonna stand behind this armored glass."
I'm not even gonna look at the price, dude. I'm just gonna refresh for earnings. I'll know based on the numbers. And if the price is not up and the numbers are good, I'm like, okay, this is just stupid. But if the price is, I'll know if the price is down or up. So I'm not gonna look at the stock. Looking at the numbers, we'll let Jesse look at the stock.
Dude, some of the movies on here that people are suggesting are amazing movies. Like I some of them I've watched, some of them I haven't. I'm gonna have to create like a list of all the movies that I need to, because like that's one of the things I'm trying to do now is just go back and watch amazing movies, because like the newer movies that are coming out, a lot of them are crap, with the exception of Dune. I think Dune is gonna be great, but I don't know.
Before we go, I'm gonna put up a movie. Hold on, and then you guys can go. I'm going to. Let me see.
It's hard for me to watch movies, dude. I like romantic comedies, but I just don't have the attention span anymore to watch movies. Dude.
Did you guys ever see Swordfish? You ever seen
No,
that? That's a
no.
really good movie. Hugh Jackman and
Travolta?
Travolta. Yep. Like there's
Deer Hunter.
Here,
one of my
I'm
favorite. Yeah.
gonna
Go
send
ahead,
you.
sorry.
I'm gonna send in the private chat. I got a trailer for a movie. I've never actually seen the trailer.
You want to play it live or you want me to watch it later?
Yeah, you could play it. This is just a
Okay.
movie I recommend. I think both of you should watch
We're
it.
definitely gonna get demonetized though. I'm letting you know right now.
Well, then just
Yeah, whatever, dude.
Just fuck it, dude. I'm so fucking tired of this. All right,
Play it
we're gonna
without sound.
Enter the Void. Okay, I'll play without the sound.
Has anyone ever seen that in the chat? Have you guys ever seen Enter the Void? French director.
No
Enter
Country for
the
Old Men.
Void.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. That was a good
Yeah.
one. True
Someone just said Halle Berry. They're just like any movie with Halle Berry.
If you want to see Halle Berry topless, Swordfish.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm excited for Swordfish. Now that'll be good.
Oh, it's such a weird trailer. It does not do it justice.
Have you guys seen Taxi Driver?
Yes. Well, you watched it in film
With De
school.
Niro? With De
We
Niro?
analyzed that movie. Like
Yeah,
shot,
I saw it like 3 years ago, and I was like, "This is pretty interesting."
So let me explain Enter the Void real quick, and then you guys can go do what you got to do with it. It's a movie that's done entirely in one take. The camera never cuts, even though you're seeing cuts in the trailer. The camera never cuts. So after a while, it feels like a VR experience. You're just in this VR experience, and it's about a guy I feel like it's like an American guy who moves to Japan, and he's a drug addict, and he gets. I don't want to give it away, but he gets himself into a situation. And you get to watch this movie in a bit out of order, but the visuals are absolutely breathtaking. You've just never seen a movie that moves like this, all in one take. And how they do the movie is at the beginning of the movie, you see the end credits so that this way there's nothing. Once the movie ends, it just ends. And how a friend of mine told me years ago when he watched it, he was like, go watch this movie. It's going to erase your mind. I challenge you not to be different after you watch this movie. It is so fucked up what happens to this guy, and because the camera never cuts it, you experience it differently than you do a traditional movie. He's one of my favorite directors, this guy. Gaspar no, but that would be my recommendation. If you haven't watched that, watch that.
Okay.
Snatch. That's a good one too.
Memento's
That's one of my
another good
favorite.
one. Memento.
I've seen that one,
Snatch.
Memento, yeah.
Memento's another good one.
Yep.
All right, guys, this was fun. Good luck on Hurt earnings. I'll be watching.
All right.
All right.
Thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow,
Later,
9
guys.
p.m. Bye, everyone. Have a good one. Good night.
Bye.